up, relax, relax. It's all made up. It's all made up. You ever look out into the world? Most of us look out into the world, well, on our feeds, on our phones, but even in our personal lives, the experience we're having on our commutes, things like this, and the people you meet. Um, and it just feels goofy, it just feels insane. Like, what the fuck is going on? you know, uh, Probably less the personal stuff and more the stuff we get on our feeds, more the social media stuff, more the news stuff. I just saw a clip of Hunter Biden doing an interview with Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, the well-known young white supremacist who's made a name for himself and become pretty popular as a streamer. Um, he's sitting there with the son of ex-president Hunter Biden, talking about what? I don't even know. I didn't even watch the thing. I didn't even watch the thing. But it's so funny. I mean, these different personalities and these different celebrities colliding with their separate interests and their separate demographic groups and you know, they're garnering attention, they're tweeting, they get up and speak with passion about all kinds of issues um and it's just goofy. It's just goofy. I saw a clip of RFK, our Health and Human Services. I believe that's what he is, secretary. Is it Health and Human Services? Is that what he does? Anyway, something to do with health. And he was talking about how he used to snort and sniff coke off of public toilet bowls. And he said that as part of a case for, I think it was opposed to vaccines and a reminder that the human body can do a lot. So this is what he tells us about. Same guy, RFK, recent story where he found a dead raccoon and he was driving with his children. He found a dead raccoon. He stops the car, pulls over, goes and, he's got this roadkill, this raccoon. He cuts off the penis of the raccoon, puts it in his pocket to study it at home. That's something he said. It's like, what the fuck? What is that? What the fuck is going on? What is wrong with that man? But he's supposed to be a respected person. He's someone that many people are required to look up to, right? Isn't he secretary of an entire agency in the federal government? People will report to him. I saw a video with that guy Clavicular. Clavicular, made famous for looks maxing, which is just a kind of like, which is just a, I don't know what to call it. It's like a little mini cult of guys who think that they're not pretty enough and they engage in all kinds of beautifying techniques to improve their looks. Looks maxing, clavicular. Yeah, so I saw that he went to Israel, spent some time in Israel, and apparently sat down, had a dinner with Benjamin Netanyahu. The article I saw said he had a dinner with Benjamin Netanyahu and he had a meeting with Netanyahu's staff to discuss and teach them looks maxing. It's like, what? Clavicular teaches the Israeli government staff, the Likud party staff about looks maxing. Which is what? Which is like how to maximize the angles of your face. Clavicular just finished another, if it's not his first one, it's a nose job. Clavicular is contemplating doing a grueling, uh, a grueling kind of surgery where they, chop your legs off. They break your leg. They don't chop your legs off. Let me say this. They break your legs to implant steel rods to get more height. He wants to be 4 inches taller. So this is the guy who he says that looks is everything. There is no higher, there is no other metric that improves one's life than looks. And he meets with the war criminal and genocide there, Benjamin Netanyahu, to teach the staff looks maxing. That's just where we at. That's what we're dealing with. It's goofy, backward stuff. It's a little frustrating. Some of the stuff is frustrating, right? ICE, there was another murder in Maine every few weeks. ICE is involved in a shooting, killing. Sometimes it's a U.S. citizen. Sometimes it's a non-U.S. citizen, but a resident. Recently, there was a guy who'd been in America for 30 plus years, had a long, wonderful career, really productive member of our society, and he's no longer with us, and the family has to mourn as he was shot. But ICE did another murder. I got it on my Facebook feed about this, and I look down in the comments and I see all these people. Well, there's a lot of people upset about it, and there's a good number of people also talking about ICE baby, pro ICE, and he should have self-deported, and don't threaten ICE agents, you won't get killed, and things like this, and and it produces these little. You don't realize how these kinds of things, like based on how you're seeing the world and what your approach is. For me, I see this, and it produces an anxiety, produces a little bit of anger. Like, how can you read this story and then like come to that conclusion and make those and read that and say that? How? I know how, actually. These people have been rigged up so that you experience a phenomenon in the real world, but your entire lens and framework starts with the idea that, for instance, you have to support Trump, that everything that Trump does is for the good, for the best interest. And so you take seriously all of his claims, all of the old claims he made about Haitians killing cats, about Mexicans killing people, about or Haitians eating cats and Mexicans killing people, and the disproportionate amount of violence from immigrants. All this is just like untrue stuff. But if you believe it, if you have it in your head, then that will color how you see the world. And this is why it's so important to have truth-telling organizations that are serious about that can correct the record, not just like the typical kind of fact check nonsense they do on CNN and in the cable news space, which is itself like loaded with a ton of bias in the approach of the so-called fact checking, but a humanist approach, like a grounded humanist approach that can set us to see the world correctly, and isn't interested in kowtowing to power first, isn't trying to give us the perspective of their advertisers first. Super important. But in the absence of that, instead of that, we have, Barry Weiss is in charge of both CNN and CBS, and still her early blog called The Free Press, unironically called The Free Press. It's still in business. And the Free Press, on top of it all, the Free Press is just an attack dog for whatever they saw. They did a thing where they attacked Zohran Mamdani, the New York mayor, accusing him of not caring about, migrant populations in Little Italy. Apparently there's a map that they put out about the different migrant enclaves around New York, and maybe Little Italy was missing. So the Free Press attacks and says that Zohran hates migrants. They hate Italians. They hate Jews. This is more of what Zohran does. And I'm really not so intensely involved in reading all these things. I'm rattling off a number of things that have come across my feed, and I'm grateful. My mental health has really been improved by this like rule that I've instated where I don't fuck with that stuff. I don't look at that stuff too much. Kudos to the people who every day commit themselves to watching what the world is, and like the journalists again who try to give us appropriate language for it. And I do that sometimes, and I think we all need to do that sometimes. We also all need to take a break. We all need to pull away from it because it's all fake. It's not real. Our stories are almost intuitive, or not intuitively, are inherently incomplete. We've talked about reality here. We talked about the depth of reality. And we've talked about how, for instance, the stories we're telling are limited. We're recounting actions. This person did an action, this person did an action, this organization did a thing, and then this happened, and then this happened. One of the things we don't have a model for this. Even the better news organizations, like I say, intentions is a big part of what reality is. So how do you account for intentions? How do you tell a story that includes intentions rather than just actions? That's a challenge. I think it's something we should look into. How can we articulate and engage with intentions as a very meaningful part of what is? Um, that's a very important thing. If you can look out in the world and tell an accurate story to include intentions. But even more important and deeper, more to the point of this video, more to the point of this title of this video, is like it might be your best bet to pull out and just tell a story about the self, to pull away, to look away from those things and notice how the world affects you. Notice how you are a part of the world. Notice how the stories you tell are from you. Notice that you are the operant power. And as we've said in other episodes, we've talked about dimensions, we've talked about uh, storytelling and linguistics. You are the operant power. You are a five-dimensional being. You are an entity and a phenomena in and of itself. And you are present and you are connected to all things. And your job is sometimes the job before you're able to, as I said yesterday, is before you're able to tell truth, before you're able to tell a full story, a truthful story about the world, um, you might need to first embody truth. You might need to first engage with truth on a personal level. You might need to pull away from these things so that you can relax, so that you can shed fears that you have. I've done this podcast for a long time now. I have a show called LED. On this podcast, I used to do it most often in my office and on the computer. And I would do this like split screen show. I would do interviews with people. And I've probably done about 20 interviews, different people I respect, and some friends. And I've had no less than three people ask to remove the interview after we did the interview because they became like the idea of doing the interview on the internet was fun, and then when we're doing it afterwards, they have this kind of remorse and a fear. Like we talked about gender, we talked about gender ideology, we talked about Israel, we talked about the government, and there's this kind of a fear and an inability to actually engage with those subjects because when I say a fear, I'm talking about a personal block, a personal framework, a perspective that uh, is truly like stops them. They say, I don't want to have this. Probably they're fearful of like people judging their opinions and idea of being canceled or some sort of future challenge. Well, it's like everyone's going through that. Hunter Biden and Nick Fuentes and these guys, these are, there's intentions, just as your intentions are to keep your job and your intentions are to be liked, your intentions are to avoid controversy, let's say, you know, Clavicular may be a little different, but he's not entirely different. It's like, you could see he definitely wants to be liked. He's thrust into this popular limelight. He's the face of this strange movement. And every time you see him, you hear him, you're watching a strange person who is not fully grounded in himself. He's still a young man. Like he's still not, his ideas aren't really fleshed out. I saw an interview where someone was asking him about dating and about love, just a conversation about love. We've talked about love extensively on this show. He's talking about love, and the interviewer asked him about love, and he said, "What's the ROI?" Was it one of the first questions he asked. So in the context of dating women, which he spends a lot of time doing, his whole thing is about trying to pick up women because he's so handsome, because he's done all this work on himself with the looks maxing, and he fails because he doesn't have a personality and he's awkward, and he's always kind of awkwardly trying to say words, trying to say things to sound cool instead of being himself. But the return on investment, it shows you about, he's like, what's the ROI in a dating relationship? Because he's not real. He's not a real person. He's a compilation of a bunch of weird beliefs and stories and anxieties. And that's produced this person. And the same is true for all of the other people I've mentioned. Um, People are acting from their framework. And in our society, we are encouraged to just act and to not sit down and to consider who we are and what are we doing and why. So why does Barry Weiss have to attack Zoran Mamdani? Because she has to, because she's a Zionist, because she's a MAGA Zionist, and it's her duty. And every day there's going to be some made up scandal. When he jumped into the pool with his suit on, this is unacceptable. The New York Post is going to put that on the front page, and they have to. That's what is. And then so then you receive all these phenomena, or all these stories and all these pictures and all these claims about what's wrong in the world. And you will have to have the discernment to go that doesn't matter, and that's not real, and that guy's a fucking idiot, and that guy has no clue, and this woman is a clown. You can't get sucked into that. You are the operant power. You are a high dimensional 5D being. You might think of yourself in a very simplified way. You might have a story that leans into anxieties. It leans into, traumas of the past. It leans into traumas or anxieties about what the future might be. But it's all one thing. It's all the present. You are connected to it all. You are the operant power. And what you can do is actually pull away from all the fake bullshit, learn to embody truth. And as you learn to embody truth, you'll notice more and more how this thing called truth, how difficult it is to grasp. It's like trying to grasp sand in your hand. You have to, especially the thing you might call truth now will be refined and it will be carved out. You have to continue to grow your knowledge. Pull away, grow knowledge of self, embody truth for self. Notice your connection to it all. And that will give you the discernment to relax and to pull away from the fake shit. And it will empower you to be less fearful. And then whatever you do from that place will be a million times more powerful and effective rather than, sometimes I catch myself in it trying to I get on these, like I said, the comments is dudes, oh, ICE needs to kill more of them. They need to deport or ICE will kill more of them. And you want to reply and you want to shit on these people, but you're not talking to a real person. It's fake. You're talking to a dummy. Talking to someone who's detached from their humanity. Talking to someone who has a story that won't allow them to even engage. They can't engage with the subject matter. They can't engage with you. So many things happen when you do that, when you can ground yourself and embody that truth, as I'm saying. People will be gravitated to you in interesting ways. People will be repelled by you in interesting ways. The right people in both cases the right people will need to separate themselves, and the right people will find you, and you'll be surrounded by truth instead of surrounded by fuckery and dumb shit and fakeness. And that's where I want to be. That's where I'm at. That's where I want to be. And I feel a great deal more comfortable here. Detached from stuff. I haven't even really said this to many people, but I've some people know this. I've pulled away from the phone and just really grounding myself here, a bit of a cocoon. I'm lucky enough to be able to cocoon with my beautiful and brilliant and creative wife and focus on, as I said myself, focus on my truth, understanding myself, creating art, written works, my own observations from this place. That's the key, fam. That's the thing. You're the thing. Don't feel that you are being pulled along by the fuckery in the world. You are the thing. You set the tone. You're the operant power. You're powerful. That's the message. That's the message. Check out the rest of the YouTube page. Subscribe to the channel. I see the God in you. Chosen. I'll see you tomorrow.